Hello, my vinous friends. I'm here today to talk to you about apple wine and apple ice wine, although that last one gives me kittens. Stick around, grab a glass, and I'll get right to it. Today we're here to talk about apple wine, what the alcohol content usually is of apple wine, how sweet apple wines can be, what do apple wines taste like. I'm going to give you a hint, it's in the name, and what types of apples are used in the production of apple wine, as well as what should you pair apple wine with. Starting at the top as to why apple ice wine gives me kittens. Okay, that term is actually illegal. And it is illegal because in Ontario we have a very clear set of rules as an industry and as a province in terms of what the term ice wine can be used for. And I'm sorry, my friends, it is exclusively for grapes. No apples. Apples are not grapes, and unless apples start growing on vines and looking like grapes, they can't be called apple ice wine. Which is why we use the term iced apple. Now, our production of iced apple is very, very similar to an actual ice wine, except you can't leave apples hanging on the tree during the winter because they're going to fall off. It's just the nature of apples. So what we've done in the past, and this was actually perfected in Quebec, they collect the apples in bins that have holes or slats in the sides of them, and we leave them sitting outside when the temperatures get extremely cold so that they freeze nice and solid. That's the simple explanation, and obviously then we process the apples and try to squeeze out whatever juice we can. That's the explanation of iced apple and how it's made. Now, getting back to what is apple wine. Now, that's actually really simple. It's any wine that is made from apples. Yeah, pretty obvious, that one. However, the alcohol content of apple wine can vary considerably. Apples don't have as much sugar as grapes do at the time of harvest. In fact, they're roughly about half. So usually apple wines tend to be around 5 to 6% if they were naturally fermented and not chaptalized, aka sugar added. In fact, most people confuse apple wine with apple cider. Apple cider is also produced from apples, but there's no sugar added during the fermentation to increase the alcohol content. Whereas with apple wine, it tends to be that you add sugar in the form of sucrose in order to increase the final residual alcohol that's left in the wine. How sweet is apple wine? This is very much up to the winemaker and the style of wine that you're trying to make. It can be sweeter, you stop the fermentation earlier. It can be drier, you make sure it ferments out fully. It's really whatever the winemaker chooses to do. I will say this, there are certain varieties though that tend to be better suited to producing a sweet apple wine versus ones that don't. And I'm sorry I can't disclose that. What does apple wine actually taste like? Like I said earlier, I think it's kind of in the name. What we try to achieve whenever we produce an apple wine or an iced apple is that it absolutely reminds the consumer of this is apples. They shouldn't really taste tremendously different from that. There are obviously some secondary flavors that occur, and that's wonderful. Those are great characteristics that we try to achieve, but our primary goal is to make sure the consumer, or you, our wine lovers, absolutely tastes apples. So hopefully that is the best description I can give you. Obviously, everyone should go out and try some apple wine now because you never know what might be out there. Now, what types of apples are used to pair for apple wine? As I mentioned earlier, I can't really disclose that, but I can say that basically any apple you find in the grocery store can essentially be used for apple wine. There are certain varietals, and I'll name them very specifically, that are absolutely not suited for apple wine, and that would be Red Delicious. It's perfect for eating, and you know what? I love apple bobbing for Red Delicious, but it just doesn't make good wine. I don't know how else to say that. It's just not the product you want to be using, not the apple you want to be using. It's not the apple of your eye, for sure. So, what to pair with apple wine? Well, this is an interesting one because apple wines really are sort of coming into their own in the industry here in Ontario in the last few years because a lot more wineries are actually experimenting with other fruits such as apples for production of wines. There are some interesting wines definitely that have come out. Some apple wines actually are very similar to varieties like Chardonnay in terms of, yes, you compare whatever you could pair Chardonnay with, you compare this apple wine with. We here don't yet produce a dry apple wine, but we do have our Afternoon Delight cider that is definitely pairs very well with a lot of different foods, as well as our iced apple. But honestly, my favorite pairing with the iced apple is at Thanksgiving with either fresh apple pie or as an aperitif in an apple martini. Check out our videos on various ice wine martini cocktails that we've done, and you'll find a little note there for the iced apple. I'm sure you'll enjoy it. That's it for today, my friends. Thank you very much for listening. Drop us a like, give us your comments, please, and subscribe. We look forward to seeing you again. Until next time.